Hi guys, so June is National CMV Awareness Month, and I've talked about Sasha and how she has the CMV virus. And for you guys maybe who are new to our channel, it's cytomegalovirus. Sorry, I was thinking about something else. That's what CMV stands for. You can Google, you can search, you can look up the CMV virus. There's many videos here maybe explaining pieces that I didn't do. This is a virus that I knew nothing about until Sasha was born, and I belong to a support group, and you know, I think the more awareness that's brought to it and the more people are sharing their stories, that maybe someday this virus will be totally unknown and we won't have to deal with it anymore. Many people are tested. I live in a very small town, and I think there was a lot of negligence on my doctor's side. I never heard the word while I was pregnant. I was never tested for it. I already had my 7.5-year-old son at this point in time, Josh, and I had never ever heard of the CMV virus. And when I had my daughter, she was fine for 24 hours. And afterwards, you know, she had a lot of respiratory distress and she was nearly dying. So they had to transport her to a new, bigger hospital almost 2 hours away. And that's when I learned from the NICU nurses that she has the CMV virus, and she spent almost 6 months of the first months of her life in the NICU. So I had to research it. I talked to specialists, I talked to doctors, and this was such a new subject to me because nobody had ever gone and talked about it, and I had no clue what it entailed. And due to the CMV virus, my daughter Sasha will have a lifelong history of health issues. Because of this one simple virus, she goes and has cerebral palsy, she has hearing loss, she has vision problems, she has sensory issues, she has mobility issues. I'm trying to think what else. We have many health issues due to the CMV virus. It's forever changed our lives, and yet this simple tiny virus that nobody goes and talks about, you know, people are like, oh, you know, there's so many vaccines for this and there's so many, you know, precautions that you take while pregnant. Like, how could you ever go and get something like this? And I actually had no clue myself, and you know, the more I'm learning about it, and I like I said with this video and it being National CMV Month, I'm hoping to raise more awareness and to ask questions for people when they do become pregnant, so this doesn't keep happening to other babies, because a lot of babies actually die yearly from this. They get hydrocephalus actually, and they have to get shunts, and they have to get fluid drained off the brain. That's another common thing that happens. Luckily Sasha escaped that. It's a very actually common virus that, you know, just a lot of people don't talk about. It's more than spinal bifida, it's more than Down syndrome, it's more than fetal alcohol syndrome according to the statistics online. And it's actually very scary to think that there's so little known about this. And I was already a first-time mom, and second time around I had no clue about this devastating virus and what it could do to Sasha. And because of it, like I said, she will be living the rest of her life as disabled and having special needs due to this one virus that I passed while I was pregnant. And like I said, my doctor never gave me any precautions. So I'm going to put another video of somebody else talking about their child and put in some statistics for you guys, so you can know what the battle is for Sasha and this one simple virus, and how it turned our life completely upside down, and to take precautions and spread awareness about it.
Genevieve, who is 3 years old, and Gideon, who is 10 months old. He was born last November, and he surprised us all when he was diagnosed with a congenital cytomegalovirus infection within a couple of days of birth. I would say I had a fairly good pregnancy. I don't remember being sick the entire time I was pregnant. At 20 weeks gestation, we had the anatomy scan. It noted that Gideon was showing something called echogenic bowel. We looked up online what that meant, and 90% of the time it's nothing. It can also be associated with chromosomal abnormalities, cystic fibrosis, and a suite of infections, including cytomegalovirus. So when we met with the genetics counselor the following week to do some follow-up testing, I was the one who raised the idea of being given the torch screen, and in fact the maternal fetal health specialist that we were referred to actually suggested that we don't get the test because she said that CMV is so rare. But I pushed for the test and we got it. The test results came back a couple of weeks after we had submitted our blood work, and it showed that I had tested positive for CMV. So we did some follow-up testing to see if I had an old infection, which I was told would mean it was impossible to pass on to my child, or a new infection, a primary infection, which would be or could have devastating effects. So we submitted our blood work for that, or my blood work for that. It came back that I was IgG antibody positive with a fairly high number, 7.3, and IgM positive as well. That test was interpreted for us to mean that it was impossible to pass on to my son because I did have evidence of the good kind of antibody, IgG. And what was overlooked at the time and not explained to me was that I was also IgM positive, indicating a recent infection. So because of that interpretation of the test, which went into my record, every other sign that popped up was disregarded as being physiologic or familial. So when he was born, Gideon passed his APGAR tests. My personal obstetrician noted to one of the nurses in passing, as she had come to dismiss me for early discharge so I could go home to be with our daughter, she noted at that time that Gideon was looking a little jaundiced, and shortly after that he rapidly developed a rash, petechiae all over his body. And because of that, our pediatrician did thankfully run a suite of tests and found out almost immediately that it was a congenital CMV infection. So we were rushed to the local academic hospital where he stayed for 3 weeks, got the official CMV diagnosis, and started on an IV and then oral form of ganciclovir, which is the antiviral to fight CMV. So my son is 10 months old now. He has cortical visual impairment, global developmental delay. He's at high risk for seizures and cerebral palsy. Life, as we expected, is just not the same, although we love our little guy to bits. But we would love for this to not happen to anyone else. And so my husband and I have together and independently embarked on some awareness raising campaigns. So we're doing what we can. We hope to eradicate this virus from the planet and do everything we can to make women aware, as we wish that we were.